Special bulletin. Underworld figure Salvatore Rocco was gunned down today by unknown assailants. Unconfirmed reports say that Rocco is involved in a large shipment of stolen drugs. Police report they're also seeking a Japanese woman, Rocco's longtime companion, who has also disappeared.
All right. Bring me to the drugs. You want me to cut your goddamn face off?
Faster than Ali, meaner than Bruce Lee. Sonny Chiba, the street fighter, is the dirty, mean murder machine in The Bodyguard. Sonny Chiba, the street fighter, is back as the meanest, bloodiest, most violent ass-kicking, arm-ripping mother yet.
There are a lot of drugs corrupting our young, hurting us all. That's why I swear to you now, on my honor, that I will find the rest of the men responsible for this. I will smash them one at a time and put them all out of business.
So, it's you. Say your prayers, fat man.
After a vicious massacre of bloody revenge, Sonny Chiba, as the bodyguard, wastes 10 armed hijackers at 30,000 feet. Who else but Chiba could cop $1 million to guard the baddest, foxiest bodies from San Francisco to Tokyo? Chiba's women, bodies any man would die to guard.
You will do what I say?
Chiba, 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 Chiba.
The Bodyguard, starring Sonny the Street Fighter Chiba and a star-studded cast of international martial arts superstars, moves from the gutters of New York to the whore-infested back alleys of the Ginza.
Now, Takami, it's your job to kill the bodyguard. Then I want you to take care of the girl.
Terry Levine presents an Aquarius Films release of Sonny Chiba as the Bodyguard in the most gut-ripping dynamite martial arts film ever made.
Chiba, Viva, 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 Chiba.
The Bodyguard, starring Sonny Chiba. If his kick doesn't get you, his fatal fist will. Rated R.
Welcome to They Call This a Movie, testing the strength of friendships one terrible movie at a time. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and other podcast services by searching They Call This a Movie, and find us on Twitter and Instagram at TicTamPod. That's TCTAM Pod. Welcome back to They Call This a Movie. This is Anthony Del Vecchio, and with me as always is Dan Aquino and Mark Meyer. Say hello, gentlemen.
Hey, friends.
Hello, everyone. So I realized for Mother's Day, I had taken my sister out to see there was a special screening of Grease playing. So we went to see that, and part of that made me realize, how insanely problematic what most of that movie is, except for the songs. The main thing I want to talk about is I think going to special screenings with you, Aunt, had me having a different expectation of what this would be. Like, I was thinking, we've seen The Room where it gets a little crazy, and I've heard about Rocky Horror and stuff. I'm like, oh, Grease, they're going to be singing all the songs there. It was like clapping and all, but like dead silent during the songs. I'm like, really? They did all these special screenings and it was sold out where I was. But it was just like, I guess, these people are just like, hey, I haven't bought the Blu-ray yet, so let me go spend $15 to see it once on a big screen and not like try to enjoy myself. But anyway, that was my experience. And the one fun thing is I just realized that I have never watched Grease in anything bigger than 4:3. So there were so many things popping on screen, and I'm like, I don't know if they expected that to be seen outside of the first theatrical release. So it was kind of fun.
Okay. Well, to sum up, Mark has once again gone to the movies.
Yes.
It's just the roundabout way.
I thought I'd get one out this way, just because I am completely banned from talking about it next Tuesday. So I thought I'd get the one more Mark's going to the movies out, and then have something different for next week.
And once again, he gets it works around
The parameters.
Yeah. He talks about Fast 10 without talking about Fast 10. I get it, Mark. I get it.
Right now, Mark is feasting right now.
Yeah.
He's got Fast 10 and Zelda just came out.
Oh, yeah. I've been playing that like a teenager again and haven't gotten much sleep this week. So,
meanwhile, I struggle to do anything that I want to do in real life. and Mark is he's living it up, man. I'm jealous.
Living his best life.
I'm living my best life right now.
Well, good for you, Mark. Keep that shit to yourself, all right?
Somebody's got to do it, right?
No, that's good.
Good for you.
Yeah.
But this week, once again, 3 weeks in a row, we have a guest. And he's been on the show before. We talked about the Spiker with him, friend of the show. Welcome back, Guy. Guy, thanks for coming on.
No problem. Glad to be here. Glad to talk about the movie we're talking about today because I love the main actor, so I can't wait.
Great. And this is actually technically this is Dan's pick, but really it's your pick, right?
Right.
You told Dan to pick this movie.
Well, I told him to pick any Sonny Chiba movie. That was my only criteria was it had to be a Sonny Chiba movie because they tend to be crazy.
Okay.
And I've been a fan of him since early January of this year. I saw a few of his films and I was like, where has this person been in my life? And why did I not know he existed?
Yeah, Tarantino's been trying to tell you about him for 20 years.
He's been right there. Like this movie opening, we could talk about it later, but yeah, he's been trying to give me the message for the longest time.
You probably hadn't heard about him much because he got the Rona. He passed away in 2021.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh, I didn't even actually realize that.
Yeah,
I knew that he was passed, but I didn't realize it was the Rona.
From what I read, yeah, he was also 82, so that probably didn't help.
Yeah.
In 2021, wasn't everybody quote unquote dying from coronavirus too? Right.
Wink. I don't. This is unsubstantiated.
Yeah.
I think, but the reports were he was unvaccinated. Now, that's neither here nor there. I'm not trying to start anything.
Well, I mean, depending on when he died in 2021, that wasn't uncommon to not have the vaccine.
No, I'm just saying. I don't want to. I'm not trying to start a thing. But
August, he had plenty of time.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay, so seeing as how this is really Guy's pick, Guy, why don't you introduce what movie we'll watch this week?
Okay, so remember to say the title this time. The movie we're going to be watching or reviewing is Viva Chiba, The Bodyguard. And the thing I love most about this movie is basically the distributors just made it about Sonny Chiba when you could clearly tell that the original movie has nothing to do with him, but they horn in Sonny Chiba at every point they can, just making it about the actor as opposed to the character he's probably playing in the original Japanese movie.
Yeah, so people that don't know, this was basically recut in a way for American audiences, which is basically, as far as I can tell, it's just the beginning of these two dudes talking about Sonny Chiba as if he's a character.
Which is just my favorite part of the movie because it adds like nothing to it but confusion.
Yeah. We do get some sweet shots of 42nd Street circa 1976. with all the peep shows going on that Giuliani took away from us. But
New York at its finest, Ant.
yeah. So, Guy, where are you coming from with this particular movie? Like, what's your experience with The Bodyguard or Viva Chiba, The Bodyguard?
Well, like I said earlier, early this year, I just started binging all of his movies, and this was one of them that I binged. And generally, what I love about this movie and most of his movies is just how crazy the violence gets. There's a scene in this one, but in Return of Street Fighter where he punches a guy and his eyeballs just come flying out. In this one, there's a scene where he uses somebody else's arm that he chopped off to attack other attackers, and just the insanity of the performance. It's just basically like Bruce Lee as if Rudy Ray Moore was directing him. That's how I view Sonny Chiba. It's Bruce Lee directed by Rudy Ray Moore.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Dan, where are you coming from with Viva Chiba, The Bodyguard?
I feel betrayed right now because I was unaware that Guy just found out about Sonny Chiba.
I told you that.
No, I don't believe that to be true. Now, I thought you were...
You never listened to me, Dan.
I guess not, because I thought this was like, oh, you've known about him forever, and I was taking your word because we had you on for Spiker, and Spiker was an underrated gem. I enjoyed Spiker. It was crazy, and this one was kind of a slog. I had a hard time watching it, but I trusted you, Guy. I trusted you, and you betrayed me, sir.
I changed movies.
You did. In all fairness, you did. You said maybe we should watch a different movie, but I got lazy and I didn't want to confuse anybody. I have to learn to stick up for myself, I guess, at sometimes, and just say, like, no, we're not doing this, or we got to change this. But no, I remember Guy showing me this a couple months ago, and he showed me specifically the airplane scene where these two hijackers are looking for Sonny Chiba, and he's just calmly reading his newspaper, and then he just goes ape shit on these hijackers, and that kind of sold me. So I was like, all right, well, I'm sure the whole movie is going to be nothing but this, and it's not really. So I was just kind of disappointed in it. To be honest, I've never been a huge fan of older martial arts movies. Like, I never really caught on with Bruce Lee movies, and I understand how special he was, but it wasn't my thing. I do like martial arts movies now, like Wesley Snipes, John Wick movies, stuff like that. I enjoy those, but this was a miss for me. But I'm looking forward to getting a different perspective.
Okay. Mark, what about you? Where you come from?
Yeah. So, not as dramatic as Dan said, but still fell on that side of the spectrum for me, in that I was expecting a little bit more from it, just because I've heard the legend of Sonny Chiba. I've only seen him in one movie, and going back to some of his old original stuff, I was thinking, all right, let's see what the legend is about, and probably gonna have to watch a couple more movies to actually get that. But the one thing that I particularly enjoyed about this is that for some reason he was like a superhero at certain points, where he could just punch someone and the bottom of their teeth fell out or something. And then every time he punched somebody, parts of them just turned into ketchup. And yeah, those parts I think were the most entertaining. Obviously, in martial arts movies, they are. But I was thoroughly disappointed in any of the in between stuff. Like, there wasn't even any real fun, goofy like gangsters, or the mafia. Didn't even call them the Yakuza here. And I want to know when's the last time the Yakuza used the word Cosa Nostra, or what, there. But I could have just used, a little bit more goofiness from it that I've seen from some of the, Jackie Chan, Michelle Yeoh martial arts movies. I think that was the main thing lacking. I think the silliest thing was the one army guy that was getting really drunk on his last day after he like screwed over the mob or whatever he did, but didn't know to keep quiet. And then when he saw the mobsters and the shot of him leaning back and the eyes wide and then running, was probably the only time I had a good chuckle in this movie. But yeah, just a little bit overall disappointed. I wanted a little bit more out of the non-fight scenes, but I did enjoy a good bit of the actual martial arts scenes in this movie.
Okay, great. As for me, I've never seen this movie before, and I couldn't help but just be completely lost through the entire film. I didn't understand what the fuck was going on. And that's what I came away with. I couldn't tell who was the mob and who was just small-time gangsters. I couldn't tell what this woman was doing. First of all, I didn't know anybody's name besides Sonny Chiba. No. So through my notes, it's just woman and then Asian Roy Orbison. That's about it. The martial arts is few and far between in this film. When we have cool moments, there are cool moments. You know, the ripping off the arm and then using it as a weapon, awesome. Punching the guy so hard that his teeth fall out of his head, awesome. What else? I feel like he gouges a person's eye, pretty great.
A Coke bottle, yeah. He just chops it right in half with his bare hands.
Pretty cool. Yeah, I mean those moments are cool, but I was completely fucking lost for an hour and a half.
I think I remember there being one part that really, because I was kind of drifting in and out of this movie, and there was one scene that kind of brought me back in, was when they decapitate that random black guy, and his head is, they're doing the thing where he just poked his head out from a circle underneath the box. So like out of nowhere, just a decapitation occurs in this movie.
Oh yeah.
I was like, what just happened? Why did they kill this man? What is going on right now?
Because good.
No, I'm gonna sound like a bad spokesperson for the Sonny Chiba fan club, but I also struggled with this one. I watched it like 3 times since I knew this was the movie that we were going to choose, which is another reason why I tried to get Dan to choose another movie, because I was also lost. I finally figured out what was going on in the third rewatch, but it took 3 times to get it.
As God intended. Got it 3 times.
Right. So what I gathered, and maybe I'm wrong, was that Sonny Chiba, according to this version of the movie, goes to Japan to rid Japan of all drugs.
All drugs.
Maybe? All drugs.
So he goes there, he kills some people on a plane who are part of the mob that knew Sonny Chiba was going to be on that plane to stop them from using all the drugs or trafficking all the drugs. So from there, Sonny Chiba basically says to anybody that wants him to help him rid Japan of drugs, seek him out and he'll protect them. And they're going to fight this together, right? So that woman connects with him, but she winds up being the lover of the guy that they killed at the very beginning on the steps of the church in New York.
God. I completely forgot about that scene.
Yes. Yeah, that was the only connection I made, because it's like, well, they've only introduced so many characters. I'm like, this can't just be some random woman, because they've mentioned that they're looking for his wife or lover. I'm like, partner, okay, so yeah, partner. So I'm like, I'm pretty sure this is her, unless if this movie is completely, insane, and it's just this random Japanese woman in it. But outside of that, I couldn't connect any other dots.
Yeah, and then from there, like, she's trying to get they killed her lover because he was running drugs. He's a mobster in New York, and the Japanese mob wants to cut into his business. She's trying to get what is rightfully his and by proxy hers. And they're also running these drugs through a military base in Japan. Mm-hmm. That's where the black guy comes in, because he's like a guard there. And then she's also fucking Asian Roy Orbison, who's a part of some sort of gang that's also like running strip clubs and shit that isn't the mob. Ultimately, she's trying to use him to get money or drugs or both. Yeah, it's very complicated, and I think that's where it is. But then, all hell breaks loose, and Sonny Chiba's always there.
I was so confident. I started watching the movie, and my wife asked me if this, because a lot of times if we watch an older movie, it's very loose with the morals. Right? There's some nudity in there. I was so confident that there was not going to be any nudity in this movie. Because my wife goes, "This isn't like a horny movie, is it?" I was like, "Nope, no way. It's impossible for this type of movie."
It's a Japanese movie from the 70s. That was never an option.
I still have a lot of learning to do, cinema-wise, I guess.
I wouldn't call this movie particularly horny, but there is nudity in it.
There is nudity in it, and there's some like the Asian Roy Orbison. He's getting down with that woman, but there's no nudity there. I thought there might be, but I didn't expect there to be boobs. I was shocked. I was more shocked at the boobs than the decapitated guy.
Sure.
I'm curious. Go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
No. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask Guy.
Yeah.
Why Sonny Chiba? What do you like about him?
Well, the first movie I saw with him wasn't this film. Let's just make
I don't want you to spend the whole podcast apologizing for it. I feel bad.
But it took me a while to realize, like, first of all, to make the connection, because I've seen 2 previous movies with him, and they were both crazy and over top. One of them I think I told you about, Dan, which is Wolf Guy, where he plays a werewolf detective trying to solve a mystery where people are being attacked by a tiger spirit. That's actually a revenge plot from a woman who's seeking out revenge from a group of guys who raped her. And after all that, it starts to get crazy. And that's generally a Sonny Chiba movie. Like, all the small crazy bits that you see in this movie, usually that's 90% of the film, and there's usually not a major plot, whereas this is the reverse, where there's 1 or 2 scenes of craziness, and a plot sort of is taking up the majority of the time, but nobody knows what the plot is, because it makes absolutely no sense. But generally, what I like about him is he's just goofy and extreme, and his acting is just out there. His eyebrows are the best eyebrows I've ever seen on anyone. Yeah, it's just like I said, over the top. Generally, all his movies are over the top, and this one is just not. It's just, okay, here's a few scenes of craziness because we got Sonny Chiba to play in the role, but then that's it. Everything else is just boring and dry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the things that I noticed in this movie is the music.
Oh, God.
My wife was in the other room watching television, and I was playing this, and not particularly loud, but she calls in from the other room and is like, "Are you watching a horror movie?" Because
shrieking.
The first moments in New York, those scenes, like, it's got such a haunting theme song to it, where even before she mentioned it, I was thinking, my God, like, why is this so dramatic in terms of the music that they're playing?
Not only that, but the way it's shot, like, it's shot from that point of view, like Jason footage. Like, basically, I'm expecting somebody to be slashed as they go up the stairs of the karate school into them. Like, why are you shooting this like this? It's like so horror movies, killer POV.
Yeah, it's very like third act scene from Taxi Driver, that kind of haunting kind of music when during the shootout or after the shootout, and probably the same like sort of buildings and locations and shit like that.
Yeah.
So
and
that's the reason why I felt that way.
Yeah, I think the music coupled with just the grittiness of the look of it would give off strong slasher movie vibes.
Yeah.
That soundtrack plays a lot in this, right? The like this very haunting shrieking noises that kind of go on in the back. That was rough.
Yeah, the closed captions for a lot of the music sometimes just said ominous music, which is the closed caption for a lot. And I'm like, it feels like the closed captioner was like, I don't really know how to describe this. Ominous?
There's I don't know. I think there are there's a good story in there somewhere, right? It reminds me of and I know you and I have seen this movie. I don't know if Mark and Guy have seen it, but Black Dynamite.
Oh yeah.
So the whole thing is he wants to stop drug dealers from dealing in the community, and that's a much better contained story. Obviously, it's an homage to blaxploitation movies, and it's a comedy. But here, Sonny Chiba is trying to stop all drugs in the country. Apparently, it would have been better if it had been more self-contained, I think.
Yeah, definitely. This is a movie that still, my theory that that Tubi just finds VHS transfers and doesn't ask for permission to post them. Because this one starts with the blue screen, and I swore it was gonna say like channel 3 in the top right corner before the movie started.
Some like static playing along it.
Tracking.
Yeah, there is a track between that opening thing and the first scene. Like you can tell it's got like the VHS transition sort of between it.
Yeah, Tubi is definitely just like, well, we'll have this on our site until someone tells us we can't.
Right. Yeah.
Who's gonna notice?
Well, what's the saying? Do it first, ask for forgiveness later.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
I think you just explained, because if you go to their site, they have every single one of his Street Fighter films except for the first one, which is probably the most famous one. So they probably were told to take that one down, but they kept the other ones up just to see if anybody would notice, and nobody had. So like, okay, we'll keep the rest of these up.
But they didn't have the werewolf cop.
No, they didn't have Wolf Guy. I wish they did. That one would have been a fun one to talk about.
Yeah, that sounds like a better movie.
It's much better.
And this movie's fine. It's just, again, like there's few and far between in terms of like those nice set pieces of martial arts action. And I was confused at the whole thing.
Yeah.
But I was kind of annoyed at how it shot. Like everything is like in an annoying close up, but also like just maybe a foot tilted too far down. That was what was bothering me. Is like I wanted more headroom throughout the entire film.
A lot of unnecessary Dutch angles.
Yeah.
Well, going back to the music, I think the way it's shot and the graphicness, like if it was just like a jazz score or sort of a film noir score, it probably would have worked a little bit better than just this psycho, like serious tone. It would have been more fun, and it would have like meshed with the crazy angles and stuff that was shot, but it was just nothing worked. It's just like they mixed a bunch of motifs that just don't work together and made a movie out of it.
It's a very incoherent movie. It almost feels like not every scene meshes with the last scene at times. Like even like the very beginning, obviously it's the church shooting into the dojo where the two guys are just kind of fighting other people and talking about Sonny Chiba, and then goes right into a plane hijacking. So that there's no thread there.
Right. Plus, well, there's one scene that stood out to me because it took, again, the third viewing to realize what was going on, but there's a shot of a military helicopter or a military plane landing, and that's to set up that it's the U.S. Army base. But that shot comes right before a scene where, like, Sonny Chiba's renting a car. So it's like the worst possible time to establish that shot because we haven't even reached the military base yet. We're nowhere near that part of the movie. So it's like, wait, why is a plane landing? What does this have to do with the plot of this movie?
Right. It's just that a lot of things seem shot out of place, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I there was another thing. I can't remember what it was. I apologize. It was on the tip of my tongue, but I can't remember it for the life of me now. Sorry.
Sure.
Very, very entertaining.
So, Viva Chiba, The Bodyguard from 1973 is directed by Ryuichi Takamori, who has directed a whole bunch of movies that I am not even going to bother to pronounce. Stars Sonny Chiba, Mari Atsumi, Kenji Takanami, Yayoi Watanabe, Mas Oyama, Takashi Hio, Akira Kuji. IMDb score of 5.2, and I did not find any Rotten Tomato score, nor budget, nor box office. Yeah, I don't really have much more to talk about this movie on top. You guys want to get into the plot?
Sure, let's do it.
All right. Dan, what do you got for us?
Just going to take a quick moment to give a shout out to two friends of the podcast. One is our good friends over at Game Vault Podcast, a bi-weekly podcast that talks about gaming news, old school games. They have their retro game of the week. They talk about what they've been playing. So if that is something that you are interested in, please go check them out. Their socials are Game Vault Pod, and they are on all podcast catchers of your wherever you get them. So go check that out. They also stream on Twitch at Game Vault Pod. So please go check them out as well. And also Tia and her podcast, The Top 10 with Tia, where Tia and her friend Brittany get together every week to run down their top 10 lists of the week. So if you want to check them out, go to geekvibesnation.com and just search Top 10 with Tia.
Okay, great. We're going to take a quick break, and you guys are going to listen to messages from friends of the podcast. So we will be right back.
Hey, this is Ken M.
And Padawan J.
from the ODPH podcast.
Each week, we talk a parlay of topics.
That's right. Whether it's sports, pro wrestling, movies, TV, comics, and more, we've got a take on it.
And don't forget, odphpodcast.com for links for Patreon, TeePublic, and the Parlay Points blogs, and much more.
Thanks for listening to the ODPH podcast. Now back to your regularly scheduled show.
You know I don't know I was so damn hard to say.
Welcome, travelers. Seems like you're looking for a story. Well, I got one for you. Involves adventure, friendship, and all sorts of...
Earl, why don't you tell him about that time I stole that big-ass melon?
Yeah, I was going for more...
Or you could tell him about the time I kicked your ass, Earl.
I wouldn't ever tell them.
Do I need to get my ref gear on?
Okay, everyone, shut up. Now come with me as I tell you a story from afar. Hey everybody, my name's David. I'm the DM for From Afar Podcast. From Afar Podcast is all about four friends separated by distance, but brought together by adventure. Hope you all stop by and give us a listen. Thanks.
And welcome back. Now it's time to get in the plot for Viva Chiba, the Bodyguard. We open on a blue screen, and for a second, I thought this was going to be a literal VHS transfer, and this was going to be an opening blue screen, but maybe just as surprising, it's a title scroll of the word-for-word Ezekiel 25:17 monologue from Pulp Fiction. As we know, Tarantino doesn't create, he steals. But
I'm boycotting Quentin Tarantino.
Right? Luckily, he's only going to direct one more movie in his lifetime. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, it's not word for word because at the very end, it says, you will know that I am Chiba the Bodyguard. I don't think that's the passage.
No, it's actually the Lord. So that's to the ego.
Yeah. but listen, I'm not going to sit here and say it doesn't add a little panache to it. I kind of liked it.
Yeah. It was just surprising for it to open up. I was not expecting it.
I think it's going to be my new email signature.
We then open on the United Nations, as most great kung fu movies do. Then a whole bunch of other New York landmarks, including the Empire State Building, Yankee Stadium, and St. Patrick's Cathedral. Then settle on a chapel as a group of people walk out of the service and are then immediately gunned down by a bunch of dudes in trench coats carrying Tommy guns. This is not the 1920s, though. A news report saying that it was a hit on a mobster, Salvatore Rocco, who reportedly stole a huge drug shipment. The assailants are unknown, and one of his longtime partners is also missing. Then credits. There's a whole bunch of guys practice martial arts in the woods as they chant Chiba. I forgot this happens, actually.
Oh, yeah. That's never explained either, is it?
All of this, and this is kind of the only thing I really love about this movie is just whatever production or distribution company got the rights, they just crammed Chiba into everything, and this is one of them where I don't know what the original music was, but I doubt they're all saying Chiba, Chiba, Chiba.
And those guys never come into play. I'm assuming they came from like another one of his movies or like just some other martial arts movie. Then more New York shots as we walk the great 1970s 42nd Street until we go up the steps to the New York Karate Academy. There's got to be a nicer karate academy in all of New York. I got to be honest.
Yeah. Well, how many of them just have a giant plywood thing that says karate on it when you get to the second level?
Underneath the bowling alley and on top of a bowling alley too.
At the same time.
At the academy, one guy with a sweet porn stash wipes the floor with everyone in the academy. Then a nerdy white guy stops him and tells him that's not how Sonny Chiba would do it. So he shows off what he could do against a bunch of other guys. Then the porn stash guy says he was doing it the way Bruce Lee would do it, and then shows off with some nunchucks. And I was writing these notes assuming this was going to play some sort of part.
Oh.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have gone into so much detail about it.
I don't know if I was the only one who caught this, but I think at one point the guy impersonating Sonny Chiba grabs the guy by the dick.
Yes.
After he takes him down. Good guy chimed in. 3 viewings probably caught that as well.
No, I saw it on the first viewing, and I knew what he was referencing, basically, which is the movie that we probably should have done. But there's castration in that movie, so.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Yes.
My favorite part of that scene is where the Asian guy just beats the shit out of these randos in the dojo. And then the white guy says that's not how Sonny Chiba does it, and proceeds to do martial arts way worse than what the Asian person was doing. It was almost at a snail's pace version.
He's white-splaining karate to the Asian guy that's better.
Yeah, it looked terrible.
My favorite part of that whole exchange is basically a debate between who's better, Bruce Lee and Sonny Chiba in a Sonny Chiba movie, and they both agree Bruce Lee is better.
Game recognizes game, I guess.
Yeah, Sonny Chiba's humble. He then asks where Sonny Chiba is, and then the white guy says he's back in Tokyo running down some drugs. It's like where's Poochie?
But it's also the funniest thing is like, how do these members of a New York City karate club know the whereabouts of Sonny Chiba at every moment?
I thought he was gonna come back, and it was gonna be like a thing, like he works there or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys are never seen again.
Yeah.
No.
And the thing, I think I love about this is the distributors trying to make this movie make sense by adding that scene in. That scene is supposed to help you understand what's going on, and it does none of that.
Yeah.
But is it supposed to just build up the legend of Sonny Chiba?
I think it's literally just for American audiences to watch 3 minutes that take place in America, so that they're like, all right, well, you're here now, so might as well watch the rest of this movie.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Then mission accomplished.
It's like it passes the threshold when you can get a refund. It's like, oh well, you've watched 4 minutes of this movie, you can't get a refund anymore.
Doors are locked. You're in now.
Yeah. On a plane, a bunch of hijackers take the flight attendants hostage, and they say that they know Sonny Chiba is on this plane, and they won't hurt anybody as long as Sonny Chiba gives himself up. So they tell everyone to put their hands on their heads, but one man doesn't as he continues reading his newspaper. And wouldn't you know, it's Sonny Chiba. And he immediately kicks one hijacker and then punches him in the stomach until he's dead. And several other hijackers, including one that he punches so hard in the stomach that the guy's teeth fall out.
Yeah. Superhuman is Sonny Chiba, apparently.
Mm-hmm. I will say I give credit to this movie for using what looks to be the actual set of the inside of a plane, because we've done movies where it's supposed to be inside a plane and it's clearly not inside of a plane, like Money Plane.
Right. Where it was obviously just a set. I don't know. It looked a little big, but that could just be, late stage capitalism getting us used to tiny ass fucking planes.
I think that's exactly what it is.
Crammed with seats.
People were smoking on the plane.
Yeah.
They were just doing their own thing.
Couldn't decide if it was Japanese Airlines or Pan Am, as they showed shots of both of them.
Right. The establishing shot is Japanese Airlines.
And then the landing shot was a Pan Am plane.
It's whatever they could get that day coming in, I guess. We've been here for 5 hours trying to get a Japanese airliner to come in.
It's only one landing today.
Damn it, the lighting wasn't right.
Right. Yeah. Oh, man. Terrible. Now we got to use the Pan Am.
When they land, Sonny Chiba has a press conference to discuss the hijacking. And Sonny says that all the men he killed on the plane dealt in narcotics. He's got no way of knowing that. Then he vows he's going to find all the men responsible for flooding Japan with narcotics.
I think it has also my favorite exchange of this entire movie, where they asked him why he did it, and he said, because I had to.
That's it.
Yeah.
I wish more people would hold press conferences like Sonny Chiba does, though. just displaying awesome acts of like strength or martial art prowess. Like, can you imagine Shohei Ohtani wherever he signs next year? Like if he signs with the Mets, he holds a press conference and he just starts hitting dingers at the press conference. Like this, yeah, that's awesome. I want to see that. I don't want to just see him like, yeah, I'm excited to play here.
And that right there is what I can do for you.
Yeah, exactly. Do you really want to hear me talk about how I feel, or do you want to see me sock some dingers?
Man, we're just flooding this with Simpsons references.
So many Simpsons references, and it's only what 30 minutes in.
Yeah. Then he shows off his karate skills by chopping a glass Coke bottle in half. Then he offers his services bodyguard to anyone that knows anything about this narcotics ring and anyone that wants to help. So Sonny then goes to visit his sister and talks to her about his plans to put an end to the drug trade and how he wants to start some drug rehab facilities. She says that he's going to get himself killed. He says that he's not afraid of dying. And just then he hears footsteps coming up the stairs, and it's a woman that saw his interview on the television and says she wants to help. So she says she wants him to be her bodyguard and that she has information for him. He says he wants some info before he could trust her. She sends the info in the car, so he sends his sister to go get it. And then she is immediately attacked by a group of men. This is kind of the first part of where I'm saying he's not a very good bodyguard.
Yeah.
I mean, technically he's not bodyguarding his sister, but also, go to the car yourself.
Yeah.
He didn't even have a good reason to not go to the car.
Yeah. He's like, it's too dangerous for you to go to the car. Sister, go get it.
They won't be expecting you.
Yeah, and they have to be the worst hitmen ever because they were just like attacked any woman that came out of this place. Didn't even make sure it was the right woman.
Right. Well, again, I wish it would have been something like Sonny Chiba was gonna go like, oh, you know what? I forgot this in the car, and the sister like volunteers to do it. Like, oh no, I got it. Don't worry. Like, oh, okay, that makes more sense than him saying it's too dangerous to go, and then sends her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's like, I might not be your bodyguard yet, but it starts now, or something like that.
Yeah,
sister,
absolutely.
go get it. And she fights them, but there are 5 of them, so she doesn't wind up winning. When Sonny realizes she's taking too long to get back, he looks out the window and sees his sister lying naked on the ground. So he runs out,
looking like she was crucified.
Yep. So he runs outside and he struggles for a bit, but manages to wake her up and brings her inside. And on her arm, the assailants write Cosa Nostra on her arm in blood.
I don't get that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, why would you go through the trouble of stripping her naked and not killing her?
Well, also, what's also confusing about that scene is that Sonny Chiba asks, was there any identifying marks? And there were tattoos to identify them. But they also just wrote into her hand their gang name. So the mystery is already solved by the writing on her arm. Why do you need identifying marks to find out who did this?
And 2 moments of the resurrection scene, I'm pretty sure he just kneed her in the back to wake her up. And that's his way of CPR, apparently. And at the fact that her first reaction, besides being like, about waking up, was to immediately cover up when she saw it was her brother. Like, not going, oh, I'm trying to get her bearings around. It was just like, oh, that must have been them going, oh, it's been funny if she covers up.
Now, I wonder, do you think they were going to strip Sonny Chiba naked if they found him?
I don't know. It's a good question.
Right? I mean, like one of the gang members is just like hell bent on like I want to strip someone naked. I don't care who it is.
It's our signature.
Right.
The wet bandits. They keep the faucets on.
Right, and the other gang members just hate him. His name's like Timmy or something like that. What is it with you, man? Why do we got to strip these people? Can't we just send the message in blood? I think they'll get it.
He patches up his sister and he demands the women tell him what the mob want with her. And she says she'll tell him as long as he agrees to help her. So he takes her home and searches her apartment before he lets her in, and then continues to search the house. Then she suggests they go for a nightcap. So they go to a bar and have some drinks. She talks about how she was in the US for a while, but now she's back in Japan to stay. And they go back into her apartment. He checks it again for danger and then retires to a guest bedroom. Then she goes to the bed as well. But then immediately, two guys cut themselves out of her living chair as she watches in horror.
The knives. Like, how long were they inside that furniture?
Oh, must have been hours.
And the thing I'm saying is, I know it's a movie. In my head, I'm going, why doesn't she just scream?
Yeah. That was
like, she had plenty of time.
Yeah. Or like, leave the room.
Yeah.
Leave the room and go get Sonny. Sonny, there's two guys coming out of my chair right now. But then immediately, two guys cut themselves out of the living chair. She watches hard. Three of them approach her and cover her mouth, then go to the guest room and shoot the door open. But she would bust through the door and grabs the guy and breaks his arm. Meanwhile, the woman is being tortured in the bathroom for information as they hold her over boiling hot water. When the assailant decides he has to shoot the guy whose arm Chiba has, and that guy winds up pulling away, leaving his arm in the door. Chiba then breaks through the door and beats up one of the guys until they eventually leave. And he goes into the bathroom and rescues her and brings her to bed. Then he just casually grabs the guy's arm and shows it to her. And he says, this is one of the mafia's great killers. And he asks why they're after her, and she says she doesn't know.
I think they missed a mark. Like, I think Sonny Chiba should have used that arm more and more. Like, he just has an itch in the back and he starts scratching himself with that arm, or just like start using it to grab stuff off the shelf. It would have been a better scene, I think.
Yeah. Every time he kills somebody, he like takes the arm out and matches the tattoos. Like, yep, it's another one. See, same tattoo.
Puts it in his back pocket.
Does he just collect arms throughout this movie? That's a great way to move the plot along, I think. A nice mechanic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Later at the Pacific Company near the docks, the mobsters meet. The boss asks the girl if the girl has arrived, and he tells his man to get the merchandise from her and then get rid of her. So his man, Asian Roy Orbison, goes to the woman's apartment and is met with Sonny Chiba. The woman waves Sonny off, saying this guy is a personal friend. She tells Chiba to leave them, so he goes into the next room and they talk. And then Asian Roy Orbison says he had a thing for her when she was 16, or he specifically says she was a whore when she was 16, which not great.
Yeah.
We don't know how old he is, but he's definitely like. Is she supposed to be 21? I was trying to gauge her age.
Yeah, that's a
based
good
on
question.
The timeline, because she was in Japan for 5. She was in America for 5 years.
Okay, yeah, that would make her 21, right?
Well, if she was 16, went to America at 16.
Okay,
but I wasn't sure. Yeah, but he was definitely older than her. That's all I could tell. But now he wants her back, but she says that their relationship is strictly business now. He talks about some shady dealing about stealing the mob's boss's dope and selling it out from under them and getting out of the city. And then they fuck. There's a scene at a strip club with a whole bunch of characters we've never met before, which is always fun. Drunk white guy starts feeling up on a stripper and is then told to leave under threat of a stabbing.
By the way,
go ahead.
Is this stripper, am I wrong? Is this stripper in blackface or not? Because I couldn't tell what was going on with her. Like,
I am not sure. That's a good question.
I wouldn't be surprised. Because someone later in the scene drops the hard N-word.
Right.
So it's very possible.
Mm-hmm. Hard R.
Yeah. And I was, again, a lot of surprising aspects of this movie, none in the good way.
No.
It is a little bit of whiplash when you hear that hard R coming.
Yo, big time. I audibly gasped.
Then in the back, there's some shady dealings going on. The American soldier comes in looking for some ass, so the guy running things sets him up with the girl by roughing her up at first and threatening her if she doesn't do what he says. So she reluctantly agrees, and her and the soldier go off to boogie, as he says. Then one of the guy's dudes lets him know that Chiba showed up at the club. He shows up with the woman he's protecting, and she goes off and dances with a white dude in a military uniform, and they have a quick chat about whether or not the package is in. Chiba and the woman then go to use car lot and meet with Asian Roy Orbison. And it starts off with tense moments between Asian Roy Orbison and Chiba. I guess they switch cars at this point. I don't even really know what this scene is about. But at night they go to the military base to pay off the guard to go meet with Joey. Joey in the back loads the package into the back of the car. She pays Joey and he says he wants a tip, which I guess it means he wants to fuck, because then he immediately attempts to rape the woman. Chiba walks out of the car and breaks the guy's hand. Again, Chiba is not the best bodyguard because it got pretty far before he went in.
Again, whiplash, Right, there's talks of rape now.
But he says he was only joking. I'm joking.
Oh, that's fine.
I'm joking. On the ride home, Chiba starts to get suspicious of someone following them, so he has the woman pull over. They watch a car drive past and then circle back, and then it starts shooting at them. Chiba gets out of the car and attacks one of the gunmen, then gets back in the car and drives away. Chiba pulls the car over once they're safe and goes to open the package to see what they're carrying. It's a body of a soldier, and it's been packed with cocaine in his clothes. Chiba says that he knows who the woman is and gives her a newspaper of Rocco's death, and she admits that she was Rocco's lover, and she's doing all this to get the money that was rightfully Rocco's and hers by proxy. So she asks if Chiba is going to turn her in, and he says no. His whole plan was he wants to get the big man in the drug game, not her, so he'll continue playing along with her. At the bar, Joe is celebrating his $3,000, and the other white guy tells him to chill out and lay low, but Joe blows him off, and at that moment, the mob guys come in looking for him. Joe tries to escape, but they track him down. The white guy gets taken to the back of the club and beaten for information, but he tells them he doesn't know anything until they just beat him to death, and Joe dies off screen.
I love when they finally beat the white guy to death, and he goes, "Oh, maybe he didn't know anything." And then
too late now.
Yeah, I think this is the moment where I realized there were two separate groups of
Yeah.
bad guys, because the one guy runs back and goes, "Oh, you can't imagine what they did to Joe. It was the mafia." And I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
these guys aren't the mafia?"
Well, that's the problem, right? The movie is so unclear.
Yeah. Yeah, you would think that they're are they two big crooks? Are they another gang? Like, it's hard to tell.
Yeah, like a better movie would just like have even establishing Chiron that would say, you know, mafia headquarters versus gangster headquarters or something to distinguish.
Right. If there were two rival gangs, you can have it whatever gang versus the Watanabe gang. You know.
Yeah, just keep it simple. One side wears red, one side wears blue. I mean,
Yeah.
it's worked for years.
Perfect.
Yeah. Like the Warriors. Maybe one's in baseball uniforms.
There you go. Sure.
And the other one's wearing roller skates. Yeah, it makes,
Maybe one side doesn't use the letter K next to C. You know, who knows?
We're on the roller mafia turf right now. We better be careful.
Later,
they don't do drive-bys. They do
They go
skate-bys, roll-bys.
Roll-bys.
Pretty terrifying.
Later, the woman and Chiba meet with Roy Orbison in a parking garage, and they find the head of Joe in the car there, left as a warning. Chiba asks her if she wants to continue, and she says she has to go through with it. So drive to some sort of abandoned warehouse and meet with a bunch of dudes in suits. And Chiba gives them the briefcase of cocaine, but when they try to take the briefcase of money in exchange, the other side pulls guns on them. And the mob guys go to execute all three of them, but Roy Orbison's fast on the draw and winds up killing all the mob guys. And he tells Chiba he and the woman planned it this way, and he goes to collect the money, and the briefcase was full of shredded paper, nothing more. Who didn't see that coming?
The old shredded paper gag.
Mm-hmm. Then she picks up the briefcase of cocaine, and they start getting shot at by some unseen assailants. They all run, and Roy Orbison winds up splitting off from them in the chaos. So Chiba and the woman keep running as they continue shooting at them, and apparently this has been a stadium the entire time. But you can never tell because this movie is shot exclusively in tight close-ups. Eventually, I honestly thought it was a parking garage the entire time. And then they're like outside. It's like, oh, soccer stadium, or whatever it was. Eventually, they start making their way out of the stadium, and Chiba has to do martial arts, but eventually they're surrounded by the mafia. But the mafia is shot and killed from behind by those other guys in the club that aren't the mafia. The guys take Roy Orbison back to the club and interrogate him. And they strike a deal. He helps them get the cocaine from the woman and Chiba, and they'll let him live. Back at her apartment, Chiba tells the woman that she has to give up this plan because it's going to get her killed. And she tries to seduce him, but he says he knows she's trying to play him. So she calls him a coward, and he slaps her, and she slaps him right back. So then she runs off thinking about what she's done, I suppose. And she winds up getting followed by one of the club guys who chases her to the top of a parking garage. He attacks her, demanding to know where the drugs are. Then Chiba shows up and just beats the shit out of him. Then one of the other guys shows up, and he and Chiba have a standoff for the guy that got the shit kicked out of him shows back up in pain, so they retreat. And then back at the club, they patch the dude up, and Roy Orbison tells them that they're all stupid for trying to kill Chiba. They don't take kindly to be called stupid, so they threaten Roy Orbison, but he says the woman won't show up for anyone but him, so they need him. Back at the woman's apartment, she and Chiba sit around literally watching a clock till a phone rings. She answers and says a few words and hangs up. Then she pushes him a check for, I think, 50 million of what currency, I don't know. And she says sayonara, literally. She then drives to the pier alone and gets out, briefcase in hand. She meets with Roy Orbison, who tells her that she needs to be careful of what she does because there are men watching that want to kill her. So one of the guys comes out thinking that they're trying to pull a fast one. Roy Orbison takes that guy hostage. So the other guys come out, and it's a good old-fashioned standoff at this point. But then who shows up? Sonny Chiba. As the guy starts shooting, he runs over to protect the woman and starts killing fools left and right. He kicks a shotgun in half, kicks knives and axes out of the air, even pulls a dude's eyes out. Eventually, it's just him and one of the other guys, and they face off. Chiba jumps through the air and kicks the shit out of the guy until he dies. But then as the woman tries to make it to Chiba, one of the other guys shoots her in the back and she dies, spilling all the cocaine out of the briefcase on the shore rocks. And that is the end of Viva Chiba, the Bodyguard.
It literally just ends that way?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
By the way,
I missed the ending. I apologize.
No problem. And it's Roy Orbison who shoots her in the back.
Is it Roy Orbison that shoots her? I couldn't tell at that point.
So nothing gets resolved?
Everybody dies. I think that's a pretty good resolution.
Yeah, I think Sonny Chiba got his goal. All of the major players in the drug trade in Japan are dead. And the drugs that were there are just laying on the beach for him to either get rid of or sell himself and become the evil he was fighting against.
He could open up those drug rehab centers that he was talking about.
Yeah.
And how big of a drug problem was it if they all fit in one suitcase?
That's all of it.
There was like 5 pounds, and that's it.
Japan's not a very big country, guy.
Many people there.
There's literally like 20 people who do drugs in Japan.
Yeah. Well, after 1945, there's a lot less.
That's true. Jeez. Oh my goodness. I think those numbers have rebounded.
Too soon?
Depending on who you ask, maybe. I didn't get a chance to finish this movie, and I'm not disappointed that I didn't, to be honest.
How far did you get?
I got to the part where Asian Roy Orbison was holding the one woman hostage, and Sonny Chiba just shows up on the top of the building, and they have a quick little fight there.
Right. That wasn't Asian Roy Orbison, but it was one of the guys from the club. That's only I think he had like 20 minutes left.
Yeah, it was short. I ran out of time. My wife wanted to watch Dungeons and Dragons instead.
What a nerd. Fucking nerd.
Like, sweetheart, don't you know Sonny Chiba's waiting? Don't have time for Chris Pine.
She just wanted to see the hot guy from Bridgerton, which I can't,
And to be honest, so did I.
All right, yeah. Sonny Chiba, or Viva Chiba, the Bodyguard. Very confusing movie for a movie that probably doesn't need to be.
Wait, why is it called Viva Chiba, by the way?
Oh, that's just added in.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like it's a sort of thing where like they just added his name into the title for like marketing purposes.
Okay.
It's kind of like when like there's like a whole bunch of spaghetti westerns called like Django in their title.
Sure, that makes sense.
So it's just like, and none of them are like related to the original Django film, but it's just like, well, we could use this because trademark laws back in the 70s were weird and probably not as clear cut. So you could just like name your shitty spaghetti western Django something just to get the name recognition there.
And once again, Quentin Tarantino steals.
Yep, that's how he rolls. But
he did have Sonny Chiba in Kill Bill.
He also had Franco Nero in Django. So
there you go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he pays homage, right?
Yeah. He was probably watching this movie thinking, not enough feet.
When are they going to show the feet?
This is ridiculous. I'm going to do this way better.
Yeah, that's all Tarantino. The feet thing is the thing. Yeah. Everything else has been lifted from other places except the feet.
But in his mind, he makes the movies better because he adds feet to it. So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And yeah, when he's looking at a movie, he's thinking, where's the feet? Right? He's looking at these spaghetti westerns. Like, why aren't they showing feet?
Yeah.
I can do that.
So that is Viva Chiba the Bodyguard. It's an interesting one. I'm glad. This is my first Sonny Chiba movie, and I'm glad, Guy, you brought this to our attention.
Yeah, and there are better ones. There are much better ones, like Wolf Guy. If you ever can track it down, I have a DVD of it, but if you can find it streaming at some point, that's a better movie to do on the podcast.
Cool.
A lot more fun.
Well, it's. I think it is important because I didn't realize how much of how big of a stamp he had on the genre.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was pretty famous in the 70s. He had a pretty big name. So yeah, I think this is something that film buffs should probably look into if you haven't already. Right? It's if you're into martial arts movies, this is something that maybe not this movie in particular, like Guy and Anthony were saying, but just looking into Sonny Chiba's collection is worth a shot, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
And another recommendation, if you just want to check him out and you're not into martial arts, but you're into cheesy horror from the 60s, Terror Beneath the Sea stars him, and it's the goofiest movie I've ever seen.
Did you bring that up to me as well one day?
Yeah.
Okay. See, I listen to you, Guy. I listen.
Once in a while. Every once in a while, but it gets twisted. And then...
Real quick, just before we get into the commercial break, and Guy, you're gonna laugh at this, and I love this. So Guy and I, we work together. We're colleagues. You have such a wide knowledge of movies, especially these types of movies. It's almost impossible to parse them out because it's like every week, like you got to check this out, you got to check that. Like your love of these movies, it puts me to shame.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's a bad habit that I have. It's just a weird hobby of just watching garbage. And thank God for Tubi, because there's a whole bunch of garbage in there so I can catch up on.
It is definitely a wealth of interesting choices.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is our movie, our episode on this film. So we are going to take a quick break. And you guys are going to list some ads so we can pay those bills. And we will be right back. And welcome back. And now it's time for our third segment. And this third segment is Bodyguard Fantasy Draft. So we're kind of talking offline about what this means. We're going to basically pick 3 characters or people in real life to be our bodyguards. Now, the stipulation is that you can't just pick anybody. You can't just pick Superman, the Hulk, I don't know, Wolverine or something like that. It has to be a character that is in some sort of protective role. Although I guess the Wolverine and Logan does fit that criteria, now that I'm thinking of it. But you could basically get the idea. Something in a protective role. Doesn't have to be officially a bodyguard or Secret Service, but those are very obvious answers. So I just spun the wheel off the podcast, and I actually wound up with the first pick. Is perfect, so I would be able to explain with my first pick. So my first pick is going to be the T-800 from Terminator 2 to Judgment Day. Arnold Schwarzenegger himself.
And that was my number 1 pick.
Yep, T2 Judgment Day. You can't go wrong with Arnold Schwarzenegger as a robot, protecting John Connor and Sarah Connor. So that's the first pick. So you get the idea. He's not exactly a bodyguard. He doesn't have a badge or a paycheck that says bodyguard duties, but he was a protective role in that film. Okay, so let's see who gets second pick. Second pick is Dan.
All right, well, cool. All right, so my number 1 was taken. So I'm going to have to be a little creative here. I'm going to go with John Creasy from Man on Fire, Denzel Washington's character.
Very good pick. Was my second pick.
He was an absolute juggernaut in that movie. Just a force to be reckoned with. I remember seeing it the first time, and I think that's when I realized Denzel Washington could be a badass action hero.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he was just awesome in that. So he's my number 1.
Okay, nice. Very good pick. Would have been my second choice if I didn't get first pick. So let's see who gets a third. And it's Guy. So that means, Mark, you would get fourth, and then you would get the snake pick.
All right.
All right.
So, Guy, who is your first pick?
All right. So hopefully it's a good pick. It was the first pick that came to mind, and that is Paul Kersey aka Charles Bronson from the Death Wish movies. Basically, I figured he will either save me or just kill every single person that ended up killing me. So it will take my revenge for me. What?
I mean, he is pretty indiscriminate about who he kills. and he's very creative about his kills as they go later into those films.
Oh, yeah.
He kills somebody with a RC car at some point. Yeah.
Oh, does he?
I think so.
Yeah, he's very, very much Home Alone as he goes along.
Yeah. And gets older and really can't do much. All right. Mark, what about you? First pick.
Yeah, it's getting kind of hazy. I'm going to take Patrick Swayze, Dalton from Roadhouse.
All right, yeah, that is a good pick. Not bad for the fourth pick in the draft. Yeah,
I was hoping he would last. I was little sigh of relief when Ant and Dan didn't take it because I don't know Guy well enough to know if he would think about Roadhouse. So once it got past you guys, it was just fingers crossed at that point. So that one's easy. And then I'll get into the real life one that I was mentioning. I'm going to take Scott Hall, who it might be the only person on this list that legitimately killed a guy as a bouncer. So I think he would be a great protection detail. Good old the bad guy himself, Scott Hall.
Rest in peace, Scott Hall.
Rest in power.
Yeah.
Except for the Flight from Hell, but
yeah,
we won't talk about that.
Yeah, that's a different story.
All right, Guy, second pick.
Okay, so my second pick is also a real life person, and that is the person who started off for me in bad movies, and Cynthia Rothrock, because she actually has a martial arts degree, so she's not just pretending when it comes to her kung fu.
Nice.
Yeah, alum of the podcast.
Yes.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, she was one of my sleepers in case if all mine got taken. So good job.
Nice. All right, Dan, where are you going?
I'm sticking. I'm sticking with fantasy. I'm going Aragorn, son of Arathorn from the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
All right.
He was the de facto leader of the Fellowship. He protected Frodo in a few cases. So if he's good enough to protect the fate of the world, I feel like he's good enough to protect me.
And you pick someone whose name Frodo knows.
It's true, yeah, not Legolas.
All right, pretty good, I suppose.
I know you hate that. You hated that pick, I bet.
It's fine. I honestly don't have a strong opinion of Lord of the Rings either way. That's really what it comes down to. I've seen the third one, and that's it. So that's.
Well, he goes charging into a whole horde of monsters. So I mean, he's fearless. He's a good leader.
Yeah, I'd have him on my team.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
Mm-hmm. For me, my second pick is sticking in the fantasy world. I'm going to go with Brienne of Tarth from Game of Thrones.
Yes. Oh, nice one. That's a good one.
Yeah. No.
Although a few people under her watch were killed.
Sure. I was thinking about the Hound too, because he acts as protector for Arya for a long time. But Brienne of Tarth, I like her personality better, I think, as when I'm looking for a bodyguard.
Yeah, and no bodyguard is 100% Dan.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, you'd hope so.
Yeah.
You'd hope that they would keep this streak on when you're under their watch.
Hey, nobody's perfect at.
All right, and my last pick. I have a few up of my ideas, but I wanted to go with a fun one. I am going to go with Sinbad in the children film First Kid. Plays a Secret Service agent for the son of the president.
I thought
Sinbad
you were gonna
and First Kid.
I would have thought it was the sailor for a second.
Also a good pick, but no. Sinbad from First Kid. I was thinking about like Diesel from WWE because he was technically Shawn Michaels' bodyguard for a while.
True.
But all right, Dan.
What is it? I can't remember what the promo was like that in which makes a Mack truck go.
Right.
Diesel. that in which makes a Mack truck go? Man, I don't know. The Terminator pick killed me because I only had
there's
3.
an other Terminator pick to pick.
I guess Sarah Connor, but I don't want to be a Quentin Tarantino here and steal your idea.
I was thinking more Michael Biehn.
Oh, Michael Biehn, yeah, he dies. I guess, but Sarah Connor lives.
Yeah, his
right.
watch survives.
That's true. Yeah, it's true. But I think I might have to talk you into this one.
Oh boy.
I might have to talk you guys into this one, all right?
If another Lord of the Rings one, the answer is no.
No, it's not Lord of the Rings. It's
if you say Gimli, I'm walking out of here.
no. No, I'm gonna go with someone who has been picked on this segment before. I'm gonna go John McClane, who was the bodyguard in Live Free or Die Hard. He watched after Justin Long's character.
I'll allow it. Yeah.
So, and he does some cool shit, obviously. And who says no to John McClane? I'd let him, maybe not now, but in the past I'd let him watch over me.
I think Mrs. McClane said no at some point.
You mean Miss Gennaro?
Yeah, Miss Gennaro.
Sorry.
No, I think that's an underrated Die Hard movie.
It's not that bad.
No,
I think what makes it even
silly.
better. Oh yeah, but it's definitely saved by A Good Day to Die Hard.
Yeah,
that movie is god awful. So in comparison, Live Free or Die Hard is way better.
Mm-hmm. All right, Guy, what about you? Your last pick.
Okay, my last pick, out of the box, but on point for me, if you know me, is going to be the Doctor from Doctor Who. Mainly because he has a time machine. So danger is no issue. Basically, I could either go in the future or they can send my enemies to the past. Whatever works, he'll figure it out.
Okay.
Yeah, you can.
Interesting.
And if the person you're protecting dies, you just jump in the time machine, go back, and save them.
Exactly.
I feel like Guy is using our lack of Doctor Who knowledge here.
Oh, it's been on for 6 years.
I haven't had enough time to watch it.
He's a Time Lord, so
there's so much going on, Guy. It's impossible.
or I'm sorry, they are a Time Lord.
Yeah, but like, so who is the person that he watches over? It's just random people.
Random people.
Okay.
But he has saved people in the past. He's guarded people in the past. Basically, he's pretty much like a nerd superhero. That's the best way to describe him or her, whoever the current version of the Doctor is.
He sounds very OP, right? Like, you can't lose with him.
No.
Who would you? Which Doctor would you pick if you had to narrow it down to one?
If I had to narrow it down to one, it would probably be the 12th played by Peter Capaldi because he's the most badass version of the character, I feel. So he will also go that extra mile. The Doctor is generally good, but he'll be just as close as possible to torturing my enemies as possible.
Okay.
Damn.
It's a little more chaotic good.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Peter Capaldi, he was in the Suicide Squad, right?
That's the one.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know he was sadistic.
Mm-hmm. Sadistic, but he was just basically not as overly friendly as the other Doctors. There's a scene where a character dies and he uses their death to help everybody else out, but he pretends like he's going to help that person.
Oh, interesting. So a little conniving.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
I like it. You've convinced me, sir.
All right, Mark, take us home. Last pick.
So glad I got last pick because I'm going to take Shane Wolf from The Pacifier, played by one Vin Diesel. And that's the end of the podcast.
Yeah, I was going to say, you could just feel the rage building.
I'm so glad I got last pick.
I think we lost Ann.
I'm just taking a moment.
He's taking an edit break so that he can cut that out and say, "Oh, Mark didn't make a last pick."
I think we lost Mark.
Mark had to go back to his home planet.
He did not survive.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, you love Vin Diesel. It's fine. Dan loves Gerard Butler. So
But you'll be happy to know I did not choose Gerard Butler as my as any of my picks. So
You could have though.
I could have. Yeah,
Olympus has fallen.
yeah. That he's right. He's watching the president. So I very easily could have.
Yeah. All right. That's our episode. Nice, quick one. Guy, thanks for coming on, joining us, talking about Sonny Chiba.
All right. If I'm ever back, I promise it'll be a better movie.
I mean, we've watched much worse.
Oh yes.
And
watched
thank
a
you.
movie that had no sound design once.
That's true. We did. It's hard to compete against that.
And you survived Nothing But Trouble, which is just painful.
I'm going to be honest. I preferred this movie over Nothing But Trouble.
Well, thanks for that compliment. I don't think anything says much.
Because the problem with Nothing But Trouble is it had a really good cast, and they just totally botched it.
Yeah. But yeah, Guy, thanks for coming on. It's been a lot of fun, regardless of our feelings of this movie. But that's going to be our episode. Is there anything you want to plug, Guy?
No, not really. I have a YouTube channel. Good luck finding it.
Okay.
It's a challenge to everyone.
Yeah,
out
it's
there.
a challenge for our listeners to go try and find Guy's YouTube channel. I'm sure you just type in Guy, it'll come right up.
Guy, do you want to plug our YouTube channel?
Oh, yes.
I never do. I always forget.
It's relatively new, so it's
Yeah.
it's not a part of our regularly scheduled rundown.
Yes. So I definitely promote the They Call This a Movie YouTube channel. Dan has been great. I've seen a few of the videos that you've done, Dan. So I definitely recommend you go and check it out.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Guy.
No problem.
Yeah, and that's YouTube. Just look for They Call This a Movie, or I believe it's Tic Tam Pod on there as well. But it's great. Dan's been working hard on making some edits, short little versions of these podcasts. So take a look at those. They're a lot of fun. We're also on Instagram, Twitter at Tic Tam Pod, so check those out. We'll post other things on there. You can hit us up on They Call This a Movie on TikTok. So that's They Call This a Movie. We post short little videos of there for our podcast. So check those out. If you have any questions, comments, you want to reach out to us about movies we should watch, hit us up at tictampod@gmail.com. Great way to get a hold of us there. If you got some time, take 5 minutes out of your busy schedule and go on to any of your podcatchers of choice and give us a 5-star rating. Would help us out a great deal. That's going to wrap us up this week. The director of the director of Viva Chiba, The Bodyguard, is Ryuichi Takamori. So, for Dan Aquino, Mark Myers, and Guy, this is Anthony Novecchio telling Ryuichi Takamori, well, you certainly made a movie, didn't you? Thanks for listening to They Call This a Movie. Subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts, and be sure to check us out on Twitter and Instagram at TicTamPod. That's TCTAM Pod. You can also check us out on TikTok at They Call This a Movie.